everybody else look even worse as stars. Let's put it that way. Matt, I think we should get into some questions now from our listeners, because we had quite a lot come in during the week and from the fallout. So I think we should get into that. But before we do, it gives me a nice time to remind you all just what's coming up next week, where we're going to be going King of the Ring retrospective, back to the millennium, back to 2000, where myself and Matt will be in the time machine, and again, part of our retrospective series for King of the Ring. And if you can't wait until then, well, you can listen to all our other King of the Ring retrospectives that we've done. Just hit the subscribe button and you'll see it on our playlist. And yes, that will be coming next week. And also our special MMA Skull podcast. Not wrestling, but MMA, just for one night only. On the what is it? Is it the 30th? Yes, the 30th of December. We will be we'll be there doing a live preview with Ronda Rousey and Amanda Nunes. It's going to be it's going to be, well, according to Dana White, he thinks it's going to be the biggest draw of this year, which is saying something, Matt, because that would make it the biggest of all times. And considering we've rolled round into UFC 200, we've had two amazing matches between McGregor and Diaz, and we've also come out of MSG recently. That's saying something, Matt, as far as what he thinks the box office is going to be for the return of Ronda Rousey.
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure, it's definitely got me excited to see it. I've been waiting for ages for this match. You know, ever since she lost, I was like waiting for it to come back, and then of course we found out that it wasn't going to be for some time. But I think for a lot of people that just kind of heightened that excitement for when she did make her return. And you know, they're so good at marketing it these days, because she's being marketed as the underdog.
Yeah.
You know, after all the stuff that she done and how dominant she was, and now they're going to tell me she's the underdog, and I'm just like, nah, I'm there to see her retake her throne.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. We're also going to be joined by our good friend of the podcast, Daniel Puder, former MMA fighter himself, undefeated in fact, and of course former pro wrestler, the only $1 million Tough Enough, although he will tell you that otherwise about the $1 million, let's put it that way. He will be joining us to give us a preview and give us his expertise on how he thinks the show's going to go down. And we know also his old sparring partner, Cain Velasquez, is in action that night as well. So it's going to be a really good card. Really looking forward to it. You know, it's going to see 2016 out with another bang. And again, I'm going to say this much, Matt, and I am the wrestling guy here, but I feel UFC have definitely won this year, as far as I'm concerned. And they shouldn't really, because they can't even determine their outcomes. It should be a real disadvantage. But they have done an incredible job, even with last minute cancellations and all the rest of it. They've done an incredible job. They even had Brock Lesnar over, which made a lot of ripples in the pro wrestling world. So they've definitely had the upper hand this year for me, going out on this one. That no doubt about it in my mind. Matt, I hope you're ready for some questions now, because they're coming in, and I'm going to start with the man himself, who said to us last week he was going to take a month out of wrestling. Well, he emailed back, because I did make a message to him last week on the podcast. I said, stick around just for one more. And Jimbo, Wrestler Squad number 9, he emailed back, I'm only going to listen to this podcast episode, then until 2017 I'll be back listening to you again and watching wrestling. Happy holidays to you both, and have a happy new year. Please could you please and thank you for taking for taking the question again about who and why you decided to go for those wrestlers when I put them against one another. So Matt, he wants a little bit more of an answer here from us. But Jimbo, enjoy as well your month away from wrestling. I hope it gives you a nice clearer head to come back on towards the Royal Rumble. And yes, happy holidays to you, and a happy new year from us. Matt, He's written down the ones again, and it was Rock, Triple H. Let's just go through this as quick as we possibly can, because again we could be here all night. I believe, who did you go for on this one, Matt? I can't even remember who you said, Rock or Triple H.
No, for me, this was an easy one, wasn't it? Because Triple H is in my top three
Yeah.
of all time.
Right.
So I had to say Triple H. I've got to say Triple H because everyone he's ever stepped in the ring with, I know he gets a lot of criticism for burying people, but I've never really seen that. It's quite the opposite. He makes people look good. If you think back to when he was fighting Mick Foley, and then Mick Foley changes to Cactus Jack, and you see the reaction on his face, that got Cactus Jack over. And people criticise him for not having any top quality 5-star matches, but then he always makes the other guy look good. He's always been. I would go down and say that Triple H is the number one heel WWE has ever had at getting people across the other side of the ring.
Yeah, I can't remember who even I said on this one, because I really like them both. And on any day I could have said either of them, and for reasons Matt said about Triple H. I mean, The Rock, I said about last week, in fact, how big of a star The Rock is. I mean, he is on a different planet. I feel like he's bigger than the logo sometimes of WWE, and he's really established himself. So it's difficult. I think Triple H has had the long sort of jeopardy. He's been around longer in the ring, and I think if you're going on mileage, you're going to go with Triple H. But you can't knock that star power from The Rock either, because he has, my hat's off to him for going outside of the WWE circle and bubble and making it on his own, because essentially he done that, Matt. He really did for a long time. He did not have WWE's blessing for quite some time.
We could go back and forth on this all day.
Yeah.
I would counter that and say, well, Triple H is the future of wrestling. He's going to be deciding what we're seeing.
Exactly.
How much more influential can you be?
Yeah, lots of different ways. On this instance, I will side with Triple H on this day. Also, we had Sting and The Undertaker, which really I hated choosing between these two, because I really like both of them. Really respect the hell out of both of them, and especially when I was a lot younger, I was a huge Sting fan. I had loads of his figures, loads of his posters, still to this day around. And there was something about, especially the Stinger character. I used to love that whole thing. And Undertaker, well, everybody knows what I think of The Undertaker. But Matt, I know you said The Undertaker. It's is it as clear cut for you, or are you pretty much sided with Taker?
Like you said, I do like you do. I respect them both. I think what it is that I drew my battle lines long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was always WWE through and through, and I knew they had this great wrestler called Sting. But every time I saw The Undertaker, it was a different kind of feeling, because I'd grown up with this guy and I'd paid attention to his career and everything that he did. But with Sting, I kind of, I tried to avoid WCW. It wasn't like a personal kind of thing. It was just I'd chosen my side. So my nostalgia is definitely with Undertaker throughout all these years.
Yeah. So again, even with these two, on any different day, I could choose a different guy. The thing about Sting, I really respect him, because he did stand by his laurels for a long, long time. He never went to WWE straight away. He didn't want to be a part of all that. Unfortunately for him, Matt, when he did get to WWE, it wasn't exactly breathtaking, was it? It's not like we just see him with Goldberg here, is it? He didn't get that kind of treatment, that's for sure. And really unfortunate that after all those years of Sting staying away, you finally get the guy, and then you kind of, for some reason, they exaggerated this whole WCW versus WWE thing, which by the way, that was dead and buried like a long time ago, like a decade ago. So why on earth they felt the need to keep saying, well, it's your best of WCW versus the best of WWE? I have no idea, because it should have been more about the characters going against one another. Like Triple H and Sting was big enough as it was, but they really kept referring to that whole Monday Night War for some reason, which I just thought would been completely done to that point. So, it's really difficult. Again, Undertaker been such a part of my, growing up in wrestling as well. So I'm gonna, at least on this episode, I'm gonna go with the Undertaker, which I think I did last time as well. I know we had difference of opinions on this next one, Bret and Stone Cold Steve Austin, Matt.
Oh yeah.
And again, no one can argue with Steve Austin's success. I mean, by a million miles, one of the most if not the most successful WWE performer, without a doubt, not just in his generation, but possibly of all times. But the popularity through the roof. What made you come up with that, Matt, and over Bret Hart?
I had to go with Austin because he's kind of instigated the biggest boom in wrestling that there's ever been since Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
When I remember at school, everybody was an Austin fan, and it got everybody talking about it. And a lot of people that I met that liked wrestling, it was the reason that I kind of became friends with them through wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of can't help but think Austin had a huge part to deal with that in making this thing such a global kind of phenomenon. And of course, I was a huge Bret Hart fan, and I think in the ring, Bret Hart really couldn't be matched in his kind of era. He was amazing. But then I look back on early Austin and I think, well, Austin, he was amazingly technically gifted as well. It was just a shame that the injuries kind of caught up with him by the time he really got to his height of his fame. So that was kind of a shame. So it's really a weighing it up on both hands. But I just think that the contribution that Austin made to wrestling was so enormous that I couldn't overlook it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you put my best Bret against Austin of all people. It's a tricky one because but the thing with Bret for me, the reason I give him my end. I mean, they're both amazing. Neither of them, but in fact, all the people that Jimbo's put forward here are all incredible performers. There's not one bad guy in all this. I want to make a point of that. And I'd take any of them compared to what we got today, quite frankly. But the amazing thing with Bret that I really respected about him is that when Hogan was basically going off to do his filming, and goodness knows what that was, Thunder in Paradise and all the rest of it, the amazing thing about Bret is he gave hope to the smaller guys, the technical guys, and he was the first guy to sort of put that on the map. Even before Shawn Michaels, because he was doing it at the intercontinental level with Razor, but Bret was there and he had to go through hell against the likes of Yokozuna a couple of times, and a really stupid ending at WrestleMania 9, but he still hung in there and went through another year, and by WrestleMania 10, of course, that famous image of him on the shoulders of all the guys, and I felt like he was the sort of he was the guy that sort of broke the mold of having these faster guys, the work rate had picked up, and kind of getting this old mentality out of the way, and it was more about the wrestling, and I think he put a lot of that on the map at the time. I know as far as drawing and all that rest of it, it wasn't as popular as some of these other guys, and especially Austin. But he certainly was a legit world's champion. I mean, he said it himself. He did literally go everywhere with that belt around the world. And, he is iconic in Canada. There's no doubt about it. And very much loved to this day. And yes, I mean, but listen, both these guys, the one thing I'll say is they had a hell of a match against each other as well. Austin, Bret, both matches. Survivor Series, even through the Rumble of 97, which, by the way, we're going to be getting to next year on our 20 back series, and also the match at WrestleMania 13, which I can't wait to go through again, by the way. They had a hellacious match. They were amazing artists in the ring. They were really good. They're almost tailor-made for each other, the way that hatred played out was so good. And yeah, it sort of got Austin set in WWE in a lot of ways. So yeah, really tough one there. Flair and Hogan, Matt. I know you went with Hogan, didn't you? And I went with Flair. Obviously, Hogan, no doubt the biggest draw. I'm guessing for you there, Matt.
Yeah, well, I've got to say, it's another one of those questions of Hogan's contribution was so enormous, just like Austin's was. But then, it's so difficult because when you look at the actual way they worked in the ring, I would say Hogan was very limited, and Ric